Long term, there's a good story in the United States as well. Long term, not short to medium term. All right, one of the good things about being able to screw up in a country like the U.S. is you get to do it again and again, right? Where in an emerging market, you make big mistakes, right? You can actually go off the path fairly quickly. And that's, of course, one of the reasons why the big fixes don't get made. But there are some things that make you more optimistic about the U.S. long term. First, of course, is demographics. The fact that the U.S. does have the ability, through its population, in a way the Europeans certainly don't and aren't going to, as the Turks never get in, and as you have anti-immigration policies. In the U.S., you actually do see significant population growth. Some of that is young, some of that is aging, but that clearly helps to get rid of the overhang over the long term and build more productivity. The second is, as oil is replaced with something, the fact that the U.S. still has scale as an economy and still has the world's best graduate institutions and does have transparency and effective rule of law means that it's a good bet that most of the patents for whatever that new thing is and the wealth is going to be generated in the U.S. as opposed to someplace else. It's not as good of a bet as it was 5 years ago, because you start to see competing centers of academic excellence in other parts of the world, in Singapore and Abu Dhabi and elsewhere. You also start to see, for example, the sea turtle phenomenon, some of the most talented Chinese that were working in the U.S. now going back to China. And I mean, clearly the H-1B visa issue around financial institutions receiving top funds having to get rid of foreigners before they get rid of Americans is not going to help. But still, these are nibbling around the edges compared to the big ingrown advantages. Finally, third point, if the U.S. is completely stuffed on all of these soft power arguments, they still have by far the world's largest military. That includes the only real blue water navy. And ultimately, if the Chinese want access to commodities in places like Africa and Latin America, they have to deal with that. I'm not talking about war. I'm just saying like things like piracy. When NATO invites China to come and they send a frigate to kind of watch, it makes a point. And piracy is becoming a bigger issue. Guarding the straits are becoming bigger issues wherever you go, whether it's Hormuz or Molucca. And increasingly, the ability of the Americans to project that kind of power will, at the lowest common denominator level, require a level of greater strategic compromise and cooperation between the U.S. and other countries than one might otherwise expect if things get ugly. That wouldn't be a good scenario because it means Americans certainly get hurt, but other people get hurt more. And so in a relativistic game, if that's what you're playing, you still feel pretty good. But that's long term. In the short to medium term, there's a lot more pain, I think, in the U.S. comparatively, and it's not as good of an investment from my perspective.